No problem, Aisha. Anybody can continue. Okay.
Okay.
So, Archana?
Yes, sir. Rajan will be presenting
Yes,
the
I'm
screen.
presenting.
Okay. Yes, it's visible. Yeah.
Yeah. So I will start. Okay, Rajan, you can turn on to the next slide. So these, okay. All right. These are the table of contents. We'll be taking it one by one. Let's move on to the next slide. Yeah. What are sentiments? Sentiments are feelings, opinions, emotions, likes, dislikes, good or bad. So let's define what is the sentiment analysis. The process of computationally identifying and categorizing the opinions expressed in a piece of text, especially in order to determine whether the writer's attitude towards a particular topic, product, etc., is positive, negative, or neutral. Sentiment analysis is also known as opinion mining because it identifies the opinion or attitude that a person has towards a topic or an object. So the polarity can range between three things: positive, negative, complex, or neutral. So let's take an example. If a person says it's a bright sunny day, then that is considered as positive. And if a person says, I hate this movie, then definitely that goes towards the negative side. So Varun will be taking you forward with the need of it. Handing it over to Varun.
Okay. So you might be wondering, why do we need sentiment analysis? Now, imagine a scenario where you are running your own company, and at the end of the day, you are going through your customer feedbacks. Suppose your company is small and you only have around 20 to 30 customers. You could go through those feedbacks manually. But in today's scenario, if you have millions and thousands of customer feedbacks, it would be impossible to manually go through each of them and try to get an understanding of whether your customers are enjoying the product that you are selling, or are there any complaints or stuff like that. So companies need sentiment analysis, a way to analyze this large data overload and make sense of it, because we cannot go on a random guesswork basis, because that would certainly lead to some sort of error or bias. So companies need these kind of analysis to make a decision and insight to make more profit in their current scenario. So moving on, we'll be going over the applications of sentiment analysis.
Hmm. Okay, so the applications of sentiment analysis are: the first is social media monitoring. So social media posts often present some of the most truthful point of view about any services or any business or any product that a company wants to know. So if we take the example of Twitter, there are around 6,000 to 7,000 tweets that are sent every second, and these are from all domains like retail, finance, health, government, anything. So if you use the traditional technique of going through all the comments, whether it is good or bad, negative or positive, then it will take a lot of time. But with the help of machine learning software, you can basically wade through all the data in minutes to analyze the emotion behind those the social media posts. Other is customer support. So basically, customers with the help of sentiment analysis with natural language understanding, can read these reads regular human language for meaning, emotion, tone. So it can understand just like it can understand the post just like a person would, and so through that you can give the customer support to your customer uh, base. Other is customer feedback. So this is one of the most important applications of sentiment analysis. So if there is any business or any corporation, they always wants to know what is the feedback of their product of by the customers who are using it. So through that you can also like get thousands and thousands of feedback, and you can process them in seconds using sentiment analysis. Fourth one is brand monitoring and reputation management. So brand monitoring is basically that you want to monitor how your brand is performing in the market, and how your reputation is being managed. So one example is basically if I'm a CEO of XYZ company, so if anyone searches for reviews of XYZ products of my XYZ company, then I don't want the negative reviews to come first. So I can through sentiment analysis, I can filter all the reviews and see which all are negative. And even if the negative reviews come first in the search, I want to make sure that in the negative reviews there is some reply that I have given, or in the form like we are working on it and something like that. So through that we can monitor, do brand monitoring and reputation management. Now, fifth one is voice of the customer. So when we combine and evaluate all the customer feedback that we get from the web or the surveys, chats, call centers, emails, you basically generate a voice of the customer, and this can be very sorry, this can be very powerful. So basically, in sentiment analysis, one interesting thing is we not only get to know what is the sentiment of a user or what is the emotion, but we can also influence that emotion. So if I through voice of the customer, so if I get like if I get a lot of customer feedback and I have segmented those customers into two customers, one is a segment of customers that are very happy with the product, and the other is the set of customers that are not so happy with the company. So what I can do is I can basically give discount coupons or some extra perks to the segment of customers that are not happy, so that they change their opinion. And to the segment of customers that are already happy, I can also provide them some extra benefits of being with the company and buying our product for so long, so that they like the relationship between that segment and company gets more stronger, and they also tell other people about the company and such services. So not only can you see what is the emotion of a customer, but you can also influence that. Other application is voice of employee. So basically it's for the corporations to engage with their employees, reduce turnover and increase productivity. So basically using AI, the companies can evaluate how the employee sees the company by reading through the Glassdoor reviews, emails, or Slack messages and all that. And the next application is product analysis. So this is also one of the most important aspects of sentiment analysis, that you want to know how your product is working in the market, and you want to analyze all that and what should be the next step forward. And the last one is market research and competitive research. So basically this helps you to know that what is trending in the social media, and you can see that which which one of your competitors is trending and why they are trending, and you can do your research based on that. So now I would like Paul to continue.
Yeah, so we have seen what the sentiment analysis, the need for sentiment analysis, and the application. So we'll see the different levels of sentiment analysis. Next slide, Rajan. Yeah. So there are basically main three types of sentiment analysis, as you can see: document level, sentence level, and feature level. Now, taking into consideration document level, it is the most basic form of classification. It considers the whole text as one particular unit and does the sentiment analysis for the whole particular text. So this is done with the help of a machine learning approach, and for that we have two specific approaches. One is supervised machine learning approach, and the second is unsupervised machine learning approach. Second being sentence level sentiment analysis. So this is considerably complex given the fact that in a particular text, each and every line is taken into consideration, and the classification is done upon the sentiment of each and every line. So there are mainly two main basics approach, being subjectivity classification and sentiment classification, that are used in this type of sentiment analysis. Third and last is a feature level sentiment analysis. This is also kind of basics itself, in which the whole text is considered as an reference to a particular product. So these are the three different levels of sentiment analysis. Thank you. Next slide, Rajan.
Yeah, yes. So for approaches for sentiment analysis, we have two methods. They are the lexicon and machine learning. Next. So lexicon refers to the component of an NLP system that contains information that either semantic or grammatical about individual words or word strings. The lexicon-based approach involves calculating orientation for a document from the semantic orientation of words or phrases in the document. The lexicon-based approach uses pre-prepared sentiment lexicon to score a document by aggregating the sentiment scores of all the words in the document. The pre-prepared sentiment lexicon should contain a word and a corresponding sentiment score to it. The negation form of vocabulary words should be added to the lexicon as individual entries, and they should be given higher precedence over the corresponding non-negation terms. Next. So, as I said, there are two techniques that can be used for performing the sentiment analysis in automated manner. Those are rule-based and machine learning. So, rule-based is basically lexicon. Rule-based sentiment analysis refers to the study conducted by language experts. The outcome of the study is a set of rules, also known as lexicon or sentiment lexicon, according to which the words classified are either positive or negative, along with their corresponding intensity measure. Generally, the following steps are needed to perform the sentiment analysis by applying the rule-based approach. That our first step is extract the data. Next. Second, tokenize the text. This is the task of splitting the text into individual words. Then stop words removal. Those words which do not carry any significant meaning and should not be used for analysis activity. Example of such words are a, and, the, they, while, etc. Then punctuation removal in some cases, and running the pre-processed text against the sentiment lexicon, which should provide the number or measurement corresponding to the inferred emotion. Now the next slide will be continued. There are different types of lexicons by Akshita.
Hello, good morning. I will be explaining about the different types of lexicons in our topic today. So we have taken more like three main popular ones which we could find out on the internet, and we'll be explaining to you guys today. So the first one is VADAR, that is the Variance Aware Dictionary and Sentiment Reasoner, which is widely used in analyzing sentiments on social media, and it is to analyze sentiments expressed in social media as per however it is required by the media it be used, and it's also used in a sentiment is both as polarity and sensitivity. So this is how we are aware, like -4 is like extremely negative, and 4 is like extremely positive, and 0 is like neutral or not applicable. So for example, if you take a word okay, then the sentiment is positive. So the way the intensity is for about 0.9. Good is about positive and 1.9 the intensity. For example, if you take another negative word such as horrible, then it is -2.5. Or a sad emoji, it will be negative. Again, the intensity is -2.2. Next slide. Next is the text blob. It is also used in NLP library that comes pre-packaged with its own sentiment analysis functionality. It is also based on the NLTK. The sentiment property of this library returns polarity and subjectivity. So, for example, if the range between this is for polarity, it is -1.0 to 1. Subjectivity ranges from 0 to 1, which is like 0 is very subjective and objective, and 1 is very subjective. For example, if we take text blob is amazingly simple to use. What a great fun. So the polarity is this number, and the subjective is 0.31966. So as I mentioned, polarity is used in measurement of how positive and negative the given problem instance it is. And in other words, it is related to the emotion of the given text. And subjective, it refers to the opinion or viewers. For example, if you take a sentence, or it may or may not carry any emotions. For example, if you take Sam likes watching a football, or Sam is driving to work. So in this, it may or may not have sentiments. So it is how the subjective is being used. Next slide. And the last one is Sentiwordnet. This is also used in the NLTK link and is also used for opinion mining. So it helps in reducing the polarity information from the given problems instance and it is used in a lexical database for the words, the relationship between the words, hence the term net, and it is developed at Princeton. And here it is also used. It is for opinion mining, as I mentioned above. So it's also used in you focus on primary and synsets, which is a logical grouping of nouns, verbs, adjectives, and adverbs into sets or collection of synonyms. So, for example, you can let's take a word of hunger. So the word net part is get a list of the synsets against hunger. So the senset word net will give out the polarity as get the polarity of of these sensets, and then use one or more of the combination to determine the polarity score all of or on the offer or the word. Hunger is like us. So this is the types of lexicon we wanted to explain this in our topic. The next slide will be about approaching the machine learning approach, which will be explained by our group members.
Good morning. Rajan, next slide. I'll be talking about how sentimental analysis is approached using machine learning. Machine learning is an application of artificial intelligence that provides systems the ability to automatically learn and improve from experience without being explicitly programmed. Machine learning focuses on the development of computer programs that can access data and use it to learn for themselves. Rajan, next slide. Supervised learning, also known as supervised machine learning, is a subcategory of machine learning and artificial intelligence. It is defined by its use of labeled datasets to train algorithms to classify data or predict outcomes accurately. As input data is fed into the model, it adjusts its weight through a reinforcement learning process, which ensures that the model has been fitted appropriately. Supervised learning helps organizations solve for a variety of real-world problems at scale, such as classifying spam in a separate folder from your inbox. These are the types of supervised learning, which will be further explained by Maitri.
So the first technique is a linear classifier. The score of particular classification is based on linear combination of features and their weights. A linear classifier determines which class a object belongs by making a classification decision based on value of linear combination of the characteristics. Object characteristics are also known as a feature values and typically presented to machine in vector called feature vector. Such classifiers work well for practical problems such as document classification and more generally for problems with many variables. There are various types of classifiers, out of which we will be discussing support vector machine and neural network only. Next slide, Rajan. So support vector machine, it is flexible supervised machine learning algorithm which are used both for classification and regression. The main principle of SVM is to determine linear separators in such space which can best separate the different classes. The text data are ideally suited for SVM classification, in which few features are irrelevant, but they tend to be correlated with one another and generally organized into linearly separable categories. The basic SVM takes the input of input data and predicts for each given input, which of two possible classes form the output. The next slide. Neural network. So neural network consists of many neurons, where the neurons is its basic unit. The neural network consists of units arranged in layers which convert an input vector into some output. Each unit takes an input, applies functions to it, and passes the output to the next layer. Generally, the networks are defined to be feed forward. A unit feeds its output to all the units on the next layer, but there is no feedback to the previous layer. Next slide. The second type is decision tree classifier. It is supervised learning technique mostly preferred for classification problem. It is a tree structure classifier where internal nodes represent the features of dataset, branches represent decision rules, and leaf node represent the outcome. It consists of two nodes. First is the decision node that are used to make any decisions and have multiple branches. Second is the leaf node. The output of those decisions and do not contain any further branches. It is called decision tree classifier because similar to tree, it starts with root node which expands on further branches and constructs tree-like structure. It is graphical representation of all possible solutions to problems, decisions based on given condition. To build tree, we use CART that stands for classification and regression tree algorithm. Over to Bhakti.
Uh, so yes, now we have the rule-based classifier. Rule-based classifier makes use of a set of if and then rules for classification. We can express the rule in the following from like if, condition, and then conclusion. So here's an example of a rule like if age is equal to youth and the student is equal to yes, then by computer is equal to yes. Just as example of a rule. Rule-based classify records by using a collection of if-then rules and condition is to class label. The left-hand side is the rule antecedent or the condition, and the right-hand side is the rule consequent. Next. Advantages of rule-based classifier are they are highly expressive as decisions trees and easy to interpret. They are easy to generate and you can classify new instances rapidly, and performance are comparable to their decision tree. If we convert the result of a decision tree to classification rules, that these rules would be mutually inclusive and exhaustive at the same time. So mutually exclusive rules the classifier contains if the rules are independent of each other and every record is covered by at most one rule. And exhaustive rules is the classifier's exhaustive coverage if it accounts for every possible combination of attribute values. Each record is covered by at least one rule. So the solution to make the rules set mutually exclusive is using ordered root set or an ordered rule set like using the voting schemes. And the solution to make a rule set exhaustive is using using a default class. Next. A probabilistic classifier is a classifier that is able to predict given an observation of an input probability distribution over classes rather than only outputting the most likely class that observation should belong to. And probability classifiers are among the most popular classifiers used in machine learning and increasingly in many applications. So these are classifiers derived from generative probability models, which provide a principled way to study the statistical classification in complex domains such as natural language and visual processing. Next. So we have Naive-Bayes algorithm, which is a classification technique based on Bayes' theorem with an assumption of independence among predictors. In simple terms, a Naive-Bayes classifier assumes that the presence of a particular feature in a class is unrelated to the presence of any other feature. For example, a fruit will be considered to be apple if it is red, round, and about like 3 inches in diameter. Even if these features depend on each other or upon the existence of other features, all these properties independently contribute to the probability that this fruit is an apple, and that is why it is known as naive. Naive-Bayes models are easy to build and particularly useful for very large data sets. Next. Bayes' theorem provides a way of calculating posterior probability from PC, which is the probability of a class, Px, which is probability of a predictor, and Px by C, which is the likelihood, the probability of predictor given class. Next. So let us understand it using an example. Below, I have a training data set of weather and corresponding target variable play. Now we used to classify whether players will play or not based on the weather condition. So the steps are convert the data into a frequency table set and then create a likelihood table by finding the probabilities, like overcast probability is equal to 0.29 and probability of playing is 0.064. Now we use the Nave-Bayesian equation to calculate the positive probability for each class. The class with the highest probability is the outcome of the prediction. So the problem is the players will play if weather is sunny. Is the statement correct? So we can solve it using discuss method of posterior probability, and we get that if it is sunny, the players, if the weather is sunny, the players will definitely play. So that has the highest probability. Uh, Pros and cons of naive Bayes are that it is easy and fast to predict class data set, and it also performs well in multi-class prediction, and it performs well in case of categorical input variables compared to numerical values. So, and the application of naive-Bayes algorithm is the real-time predicting, test classification, spam, and sentiment analysis. Next is the Bayesian networks. Bayesian belief networks specify joint condition probability distribution, also known as probability networks or Bayesian belief networks. Bayesian belief networks are directed acyclic graphs that combine prior knowledge with observed data. It allows class conditional dependency to define between subsets of variable. It provides graphical model for causal relationship on which learning can be performed. So these are the characteristics make it useful for NLP. Next. There are two components that define a Bayesian belief network, that is a directed acyclic graph and a set of conditional probabilities. So that the representation of both of the following is given in the slide. Next. So now we have the maximum entropy. A maximum entropy is a machine learning method based on empirical data and provides probabilities for which sentence belongs to a particular class. So maximum entropy sometimes works better than naive for an experiment. And the fundamental principle of maximum entropy is that distribution should be uniform. Constraints for the model that characterize the class-specific expectations for distribution derived from labeling training data. When using maximum entropy, the first step is to identify a set of feature functions which define a category. For example, in case of document, features could be words that belong to documents in that category. For each feature, measure its expected value over the training data and treat this as a constraint over the model distribution. Maximum entropy models are feature-based models. It is same as using logistic regression, which corresponds to maximum entropy classifier for independent observation. Like any learning technique, the output generated from the process are relied on the given data set of input. The data set is analyzed, and from it a model is generated encapsulating all the rules about the process that could be inferred from the data set. Now I hand it over to Asha.
Unsupervised learning. Unsupervised learning, also known as unsupervised machine learning, uses machine learning algorithms to analyze and cluster unlabeled datasets. These algorithms discover hidden paths or data groupings without the need for human intervention. Its ability to discover similarities and differences in information make it the ideal solution for exploratory data analysis, cross-selling strategies, customer segmentation, and image recognition. Next slide. Working of unsupervised learning. Here we have taken an unlabeled input data, which means it is not characterized and corresponding outputs are also not given. Now, this unlabeled input data is fed to the machine learning model in order to train it. Firstly, it will interpret the raw data to find the hidden patterns from the data and then will apply suitable algorithms such as k-means clustering, decision tree, etc. Once it applies the suitable algorithm, the algorithm divides the data objects into groups according to the similarities and difference between the objects. Next slide. Rajan, next slide. No, go to the previous one. Sorry. Next. Types of unsupervised learning. There are two types of unsupervised learning: clustering and association. Clustering is a data mining technique which groups unlabeled data based on their similarities or differences. Clustering algorithms are used to process raw, unclassified data objects into groups represented by structures or patterns in the information. Clustering algorithms can be characterized into a few types: specially exclusive, overlapping, hierarchical, and probabilistic. Association. An association rule is a rule-based method for finding relationships between variables in a given dataset. These methods are frequently used for market-based analysis, allowing companies to better understand relationships between different products. Thank you. Over to Darshan.
Sorry, I'm going to explain you the implementation of the sentimental analysis. Rajan, next slide, please. So basically, the implementation of the sentimental analysis is divided into two parts. The first one is using natural language processing to pre-process and clean test data, which includes tokenization, removing stop words, normalization word, and vectoring text. The second part includes using machine learning classifiers to predict sentiment, which includes machine learning tools, how classification works, normalizing word, how to use spacey for the text classification. Rajan, next slide, please. So basically, we will now go in depth of using natural language processing to pre-process and the clean text data. Any sentiment analysis workflow begin with the loading data. But what do you do once the data have been loaded? You need to process it through a natural language processing pipeline before you can do anything interesting with it. First, which includes the tokenization. Here, tokenization is the process of breaking down chunks of text into smaller pieces. Spacy comes with the default processing pipeline that begin with the tokenization, making this process a snap. In Spacy, you can do either sentence tokenization or a word tokenization. Word tokenization breaks text down into individual words. Sentence tokenization breaks text down into individual sentences. The next comes removing stop words. Stop words are words that may be important in human communication but are of little value for machines. Spaces come with a default list of stop words that can be customized. For now, you will see how you can use token attributes to remove stop words. Next comes normalization. Normalization is a little more complex than tokenization. It entails consisting all forms of a word into a single representation of words. For instance, watched, watching, and watches can be normalized into words. There are two major normalization methods. The first one is the stemming, and the second one is the lemmatization. So basically, with stemming, a word is cut off at its stem, the smallest unit of the word from which you can create the distinct word. You can just saw an example of above with watch. Stemming simply trunks the string using common endings, so it will miss the relationship between feel and felt, for example. The second one is the lemmatization. Lemmatization seems to address this issue. This process uses a data structure that relates all form of word back to its simplest form or lemma. Because lemmatization is generally more powerful than stemming, it's the only normalization strategy offered by Spacy. The last one in natural language processing is vectorizing text. Vectorizing text is a process that transforms a token into a vector or a numeric array that text of NLP is unique to and represent various features of token. Vectors are used under the hood to find word similarities, classify text, and perform other NLP operations. Now, your text is now processed into the form of understandable by your computer. So you can start to work on classifying it according to its sentiment. You will cover three topics that will you general understand of machine learning classification of the text data. Rajan, next slide, please. There are a number of the tools available in Python for solving classification problems. Here are some of more popular ones: TensorFlow, PyTorch, and Scikit-learn. TensorFlow is developed by Google and is one of the most popular machine learning frameworks. Use it primarily to implement your machine learning algorithms as opposed to using existing algorithms. It's fairly low level, which gives the user a lot of power, but it comes with a steep learning curve. The next is PyTorch. PyTorch is a Facebook answer to TensorFlow and accomplishes many of the same goals. However, it is built to be more familiar to Python programmers and has a very popular framework in it. Because they are used cases, comparing TensorFlow and PyTorch is a useful exercise if you are considering learning a framework. The last one is a scikit-learn. Scikit-learn stands in a context to TensorFlow and PyTorch. It is a high level and allow you to use of the self machine learning algorithms rather than building your own. What is the lacks in customization? It is more than it makes the ease of use, allowing you to quickly train classifier in just a few lines of the code. The next one is classification. In the classification, slips your data into the training and the evaluation sets. Select a model architecture. Use training data to train your model. Use test data to evaluate the performance of your model. Use a trained model on new data to generate predictions, which in this case will be a number from -1 to +1. Then last, the step for the using machine learning classifier to predict sentiment in the sentiment comes spacing for the text classification. Add the text cat component to the existing pipeline. Add a valid label to the text cat component. Load, shuffle, and split the data. Train the model evaluating on each training loop. Use the trained model to predict the sentimental of non-training data. Optional, save the training model. So I handed over the next slide to Darshan.
Thanks, Aman. Next slide. Rajan. The example one. Yes, thank you. So importing the data. So we got the data from Kaggle. It had 5 columns and 38,932 columns, rows. So first we did the cleaning of data. So what we did is converting the lowercase, uppercase to lowercase, removing square brackets, removing the functions, and we added that description to the new column and named it to clean description. So the next slide. So this is the cleaning part we did. Next. So vectorizing the data. Before vectorizing the data, what we did is we put clean description in the independent variable and response in the dependent variable, and we have used vectorizer, TF-ID vectorizer, and logistic regression is used in this. So the next part. Yeah, pipelining in the model and model prediction. So we have first created the vectorizer, then create the classifier and put everything into the classifier. So this is what we got, and in the model prediction we got accuracy of 0.88. So means 88% is the accuracy, and in the next cell, 87th cell, trying on new reviews. What we did is example. If we put the example description like I am not happy, and result is happy or not happy, so it will give the prediction happy. So 88% prediction is there with us. So yeah, that's it. Next conclusion.
Hello. Next slide, Rajan. Okay. So
So for conclusion of sentiment analysis, also known as opinion or emotion AI, is a subfield of NLP and tries to identify and extract opinions within a given text across blogs, reviews, social medias, forums, news, etc. Sentiment analysis can help craft all this exponentially growing unstructured text into a structured data using NLP and open source tools. For example, Twitter, a treasure trove of sentiment and users who are making their reactions and opinions of every topic known under the sun. Amongst the many fields of analysis, there is one field where humans have dominated the machines more than any, and that is to analyze the sentiment or sentiment analysis. Sentiment analysis main agenda is to analyze the data to identify relationships, patterns, and make predictions to gain and give insight. First, discovering and then classifying the information expressed in a piece of text is helping us attain the attitude and mood of the wider public to gather information about the context. Sentiment analysis approaches have existed for more than a decade and now are exploited by enterprises as an important tool for strategic marketing, planning, and maneuvering through all this data. Sentiment analysis is helping institutions to enhance their policies to a great extent and helping them understand their customers. Next slide. Raja, next slide. The back, yeah. Sentiment analysis can have a significant impact through precise interpretation of the customer's feelings, sentiments, and interests. Governments have used sentiment analysis results during their election campaigns to understand what their wider public is going through. Companies have modified their policies and procedures based on the results of sentiment analysis. There is a lot of textual data available to us, which is now being used to build superior predictive tools. Furthermore, brand management approaches through sentiment analysis are expanding and creating a marketing tsunami in many organizations, which has got companies to shift focus towards personalization and customer-centric engagement. Rajan, next. Thank you.